So but there's a flip side to this, right? There's a lot of candidates are trying to gamify this whole thing,
Absolutely.
right? And they're using the AI to write things that are just perfectly tying to the job description and the expectations. So how do you set up the process that is bulletproof on that front? Is there a way?
It's funny because I was talking to a friend about this literally like 2 weeks ago, and you'd be dumb to do that because at some point you have to show where you did this work, right? So if you're going to just put in, and because I've heard people say that, well, copy the job description and put it in, and that now becomes your resume. I'm like, okay, but you then have to show where you did the work. There's reference checks that would qualify whether you did it or not. There's back channels. So there's a way to kind of essentially get around the BS that you've now put out there. So I just think that's the dumbest thing to do. Yeah, I hear people trying to figure out a way to gamify it that way. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But
I think there's some nuance to it. And what I mean by that is, I think if you're showcasing yourself in an inauthentic way, I would just professionally encourage you not to do that. You don't want to end up in a position where you're just totally out in front of your skis and you're not qualified to do that work. That would be a failure. Conversely, I am a believer that like the AI is there and you'd be somewhat silly not to leverage the tools at your disposal. Once you're in the job, no one's going to say, oh, don't use the AI tool that's out there and free to use. I've even seen some companies saying, I know this isn't a software engineering recruiting podcast, but I've seen certain companies say, if you're a software engineer and you want to use Chat GPT for a coding interview, like go ahead. No one's going to say you
Yeah.
can't use that once you're in the seat. So to a degree, I feel like, use the tools that are at your disposal, but do it in a way where, you're still authentic and showcasing yourself in an appropriate way.
something to that point around authenticity. I actually was talking to a prospective client, and he asked, "How would I go about finding candidates?" And I told him, through my network, through LinkedIn. He goes, "So you're not going to use AI to kind of surface candidates?" I said, "I mean, if I had to." He goes, "Well, I prefer you not. Right? Our brand is about customer interaction, and I want it to feel authentic." And so, for him, AI was like, it was like taboo. He didn't want me. He doesn't want someone, because I think there have been recruiters say, "Oh, well, we use AI to surface all this talent." So I think it depends on who you're talking to, right? Your audience and what they're looking for. Whereas this guy said, "I want authentic, organic outreach versus just this automation type of outreach." So I thought that was pretty unique. So I mean, one small little anecdote, but something to kind of think about, right? As we're talking to certain founders and how they think about, building their teams, and us as recruiters and how we go about helping them build their teams.